Hi, welcome back to Garden Ninja. Now today is a November tour of my garden and I'm going to be showing you how it's faring as we head into the winter months. There's still plenty to do in the garden and I've got a few tips and tricks I'm going to show you today along with the progress of the Exploding Atom Garden. So come on, let's take a look. Now November is a great time to start sweeping up all the leaves around your garden and thinking about how you can use them. One of the best things you can do with fallen leaves is to make leaf mould. So if you've got a spare compost bin in your garden, you can set about to recycling all of those leaves rather than them going to waste. So what I'm going to do today is get all this leaf mould bagged up so that I can use it in the garden later on this year in early spring. Now it takes about 2 years to make leaf mould and I've got 2 bins here. So I'm going to empty this first one so I can fill it this year. Next year that bin will be ready and then this one will be half ready and the cycle will continue. Ideally I probably want 3 bins, but for now I'm going to manage with 2 and see how I get on. But it's a great way to recycle all your leaves and stop sending them off to different councils for recycling when you can use them yourself at home. Now the greenhouse here at Garden Ninja HQ has been mega productive this year and I've been growing all my own plants without plastic from seed. But if you have a look around here, you'll notice that a number of my tomatoes and other plants now have finished. I managed to get about 3 months worth of tomatoes off these plants, but obviously now it's gone too cold and they've come to the end of their life. So I'm going to remove them and clean up the garden greenhouse. Now it may sound like a really mundane task, but it's really important for plant health. So if I didn't clean the greenhouse up, there's more chance of things like fungus and other infections and viruses maybe affecting my plants next year. So it's a really good top tip to make sure that your greenhouse is clean. Now you don't need to go too crazy buying specialist cleaning products and solutions. I just tend to use some washing up liquid and some warm soapy water, brush everything out, remove all the dead growth and plants, and then give everything just a wipe down with some hot soapy water. And that goes through the outside panels of the glass house as well. And if you don't clean your glass, what you may find is that your plants don't grow quite as vigorously because of the lack of sunlight that's coming into the greenhouse. So it's just really maintenance tips to make sure you're getting the most out of your glass house. And it can actually be quite fun, doesn't take very long, and if you do it every year, you're never going to have to spend a huge amount of time doing it because you're keeping on top of it. So now it's actually been incredibly wet for November. It's rained so far for about a week and a half non-stop here up at Garden Ninja HQ. The ground is really sodden, all the beds are completely saturated and waterlogged, so there's no point me trying to do any work here. If I was to try and weed or lift and divide plants, do anything like that, I'm going to do more harm than good because I'm just going to damage the soil, and it's a really important fact to raise. If you're going to be working on waterlogged or frozen soil, you can really damage it by compacting it, by walking on it, digging on it. It's always advisable that you just don't do anything other than maybe mulch. But if your soil is waterlogged, you need to wait until it dries out or the rain stops for a couple of days before you start to work it. Say what? You'll see behind me that we've got these trees here. Now these are the grafted apple trees. You can hear the ground how squelchy it is. Here's one that I grafted, and if you want to know more about how to graft, you've guessed it, I've got a guide on it. But basically a graft is taking a part of a fruit tree, such as an apple here. You would take part of this branch and then you graft it onto a rootstock. So you're taking part of an existing tree and propagating it to make more. It's a really effective way to create fruit trees and really exciting because it's quite technical. So if you're technically minded, have a look at grafting fruit trees because it's a really nice activity to do in the winter time. So I've got these cosmos here that I grew from seed earlier this year and they've put on loads of flower all year, but it's now time to say goodbye and cut them back and then tidy up this entire area. So I'm just going to rough and ready, chop them down, because these are annual, so they're not going to come back next year. They're a one-hit wonder for 1 year only. And all these can go onto your compost bin, ready to decompose and turn into good homemade compost. November's a really good month to start thinking about garden design and planning for next year, because you've still got a bit of fun with whatever plants, shrubs and trees are in your garden. You can kind of see what's there now, but as other things are dying away, it gives you a clearer view of what you could do with your garden. So it's a great month to get out a pencil and a piece of paper and start to make notes. Have a look what's worked, what hasn't worked, what you like, dislike, and what you'd like to do with it. And always make sure you're looking at viewpoints, proportion, and just looking at your garden thinking, what would be over there, and what would I do there, and is there a journey? Now, November's a great month to do that, as I said, because things are dying back, and it means that you can start to make really considered decisions for next year, rather than the usual rush decisions that you make in early spring when you're racing around garden centres thinking, I want to do all this stuff, and flogging yourself trying to do it. This month is a prime month to sit back with a cup of tea inside and start to think, what do I want my garden to be next year? Now, whether you've got a large garden like this or a tiny garden, the principle is still the same. It's all about stopping and thinking and working out how you want it to look, what you're going to keep and what you're going to change. So there we have it, my tour of the garden in November. Now, it may be cold and things may be starting to go to sleep now, but it is a great month to stop and take stock of everything you've done this year in your garden. If you've liked this video, why not subscribe to my YouTube channel? There are loads more garden design hints, tips and hacks. I'll be back in December to give you an update on my garden and give you some key design tips as to how you can make your garden awesome next year by planning right now.